You did it! You made it through the primary source documents. You made it through all the keywords and concepts video. And now you get to watch a movie. Yay! All right, so this week for our documentary, it's a little shorter than our normal documentaries are, just because you do have some more reading this week, trying to be mindful of your time. So this week we are watching something called The Walk. It's a documentary that was made in 2001 by some indigenous folks out in California. And what they were doing is they were documenting a walk that they were taking basically to protest the way that they've been treated historically. Many of these tribes do not have recognition through the federal government. Many of these tribes do not have land of their own, and they're very disconnected, right? So the idea behind this documentary was that a group of people got together and decided to do kind of a protest walk. A prayerful walk is what they called it, where they wanted to walk across California Indian land from one of the missions down in the south all the way up to Sacramento, to kind of protest, to be like, hey, maybe we should work together in unity to have some sovereignty recognized for us. And so the documentary is about that journey, is about them walking and trying to do all this and trying to coordinate different tribes and different people with different goals. And, folks are complicated. It's hard to get people to agree on anything. Even that puppies are good, people are still going to argue, you're still going to have people, well, sometimes they're mean, always a person, there's always a person. So this is a really great documentary that is kind of jumping a couple hundred years in the future from where we started, but I'm doing this on purpose, right? So when we learn about the mission system, we kind of learn that the people and the cultures that were here were wiped out by the Spanish. Not true. Not true. People hold on to stuff, right? It's great that you're telling me I have to convert and do all of these things, and I will do those things because I would like to eat and not die, right? But that doesn't mean I'm giving up my traditions, my culture, my language, all of those things. So as we're watching this, I want you guys to start thinking about how you would preserve those things. If you were an indigenous person and all of a sudden your homeland was being invaded by these Spaniards, insisting that you were worshiping the wrong god and wearing the wrong clothes and eating the wrong way and everything you did was wrong, and there were just so many of them. You can't really fight them, although they tried. We're going to learn about those too. It's fun. So what are you going to do? You're going to try to survive, right? You're going to try to make sure you, your culture, your language, some part of you survives. So as you're watching this, I want you to think about how these people have kept hold of any portion of their culture, given how hard Spain worked to wipe it out. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind as you're watching the documentary. We've now gone on over all the mission stuff, so you should have a pretty good background on what's going on here and what they're talking about. But this is kind of the modern issue. This is what happened 200 years later with these folks. They're still suffering. There's still problems from the mission system. And it's important that we remember that these people are real, that they're still around, that they're still living, and that they were still negatively impacted by this. So it's a great documentary. Trigger warning if you have medical issues. If you are a person who does not like seeing icky things regarding your feet or blisters because they walk 700 miles, so their feet get a little, look away. That would be my advice. But otherwise, it's a perfectly normal history documentary. They're going to talk a bit about Proposition 5 in here, and they do explain it a bit. Remember, in California, the proposition system is something that they use to vote on individual issues. It's a version of direct democracy. So when they were talking about Proposition 5, that was the ability for indigenous folks who had been given their land back to use it the way they wanted to. There were a number of people in California who were very upset that they gave Native Americans their land back, only to have them turn around and put casinos on it. Well, you can't give people their land back and then tell them what to do with it. It's either their land or it's not. So that's kind of what they're talking about with Proposition 5. Just wanted to make sure everybody knew that and we weren't confused at all. Once you are done with this, go ahead, get your quiz done, and then I will see you in the discussion board posts. We'll talk about how do you get any of your culture to make it through? How do you survive? All right, I'll see you next time.